Chapter 2634. It's all thanks to the Dragon Palace this time. Otherwise, we might not have survived. Yeah, it's all thanks to the help from the Dragon Palace. The Dragon King and the experts from the Dragon Palace are so powerful. In the future, the Dragon King will be the major shareholder of our Dragon Python Corporation. I really didn't expect this. The Dragon Palace is our benefactor. Moreover, the Dragon Palace is so powerful. It's only right that they become the major shareholders. Watching Dragon Palace's Long Feng leave, some of the Dragon Python Corporation's disciples looked at the gradually disappearing Long Feng in awe and disgust among themselves. This battle was all thanks to the Dragon Palace. All disciples, retreat from the abyss. When Long Feng passed by the Moon Sect, a voice came from inside. Wang Xian swept his gaze across the battlefield. 3 8th Order Undying God King Realm experts from Yu Great Sect had defeated 2 8th Order Abyss demons. In the Abyss, they had also killed a large number of abyssal species. The great sects of the Moon were the most powerful forces in the north. Once they were under pressure, they would be in real danger. Fortunately, this time, the great sects of the Moon won the war easily. Long Feng flew at high speed. After half an hour, he arrived at the planet where the Dragon Palace was built. "Let's go back to the main Dragon Palace," said Wang Xian to Tianzhen and the rest with a beaming face. "It's Dragon King." The members immediately entered the Dragon Palace and teleported to the main Dragon Palace. Prime Minister Turtle also sent people to guard the Dragon Peak. "This time, I'll first raise the Heavenly Formation's combat strength to the 9th Order Undying God King realm. The rest of the Type 8 and Type 7 Abyss species corpses will be used to increase the strength of some Type 8 members." Upon returning to the Dragon Palace, Wang Xian immediately instructed Tianzhen and the rest. 16 Undying God King Level 8 Abyss species corpses, plus a bunch of Level 7 Abyss species corpses, it was enough to create 2 Level 9 member. However, Wang Xian was not prepared to do so. 10 Rank 8 corpses could produce 1 Rank 9 combat power, and 10 corpses could produce 10 members with Rank 8 combat power. 10 8th Order God King Realm experts were more than enough to fight against a 9th Order God King Realm expert. Therefore, Wang Xian was only prepared to upgrade the Heavenly Array to the 9th level Undying God King Realm. Because of the upgrade, he would be able to fight against 2 to 3 Undying God King Realm expert. As for Wang Xian himself, he did not intend to level up at the moment. He could not level up directly through the corpse of the Abyss species. "It's Dragon King." Excitement flashed in Tianzhen's eyes. His 9th Order Undying God King realm battle prowess was one step closer to his peak. This time, the Dragon Palace will have about 10 more 8th Order Undying God Kings. Wang Xian mumbled as he looked at the resources in his hands. As for the other members, it was even more terrifying. In the next few days, the members of the Dragon Palace entered the Dragon Transformation Pool to quickly improve their strength, and on the Demon Island, after this battle, it caused quite a stir. Among them, Dragon Palace rose to fame in one battle. The experts of Dragon Palace first helped Beichuan Zong kill the 8 Rank 8 Undying God King Abyss species. After that, they went to support the Dragon Python group and killed 8 Undying God King Level 8 Abyss Beast. Coupled with the terrifying archers in the Dragon Peak of the Dragon Palace, tens of millions of abyssal species had died in the hands of the Dragon Palace. The Dragon Python Corporation even gave 10% of its shares to the Dragon Palace. The news left everyone dumbfounded. The Dragon Palace is much stronger than the Beichuan sect, the Dragon Python group, and the Ancient God Dynasty. You guys don't know, the experts of the Dragon Palace are too ferocious. The Dragon King even has a subordinate hiding in the void. He will definitely heavily injure the Rank 8 abyssal species. That Dragon Peak is even scarier. The 3 bramble creatures easily suppressed the Rank 8 abyssal species, and that archer can shoot 1,000 arrows in a second. It's like a killing machine for the abyssal species. This time, the Dragon Python Corporation directly gave the Dragon King 10% of the shares, and ordered their disciples to treat the Dragon King like they do them. The Dragon Python Corporation owes the Dragon King a huge favor, and will probably be on the same side as the Dragon King in the future. It's not just the Dragon Python Corporation. Beichuan Sect's Goddess of Ice is the Dragon King's disciple, and the Dragon King has helped Beichuan Sect twice. the Beichuan sect owes the Dragon King a huge favor. If anything happens to the Dragon Palace, the Beichuan sect will also lend a hand. On the smart computer, countless people were discussing. Towards an expert from a small galaxy that suddenly appeared, everyone was filled with shock. Especially killing 16 rank 8 Undying God King Abyss species in one battle, such a feat could only be achieved by a large sect. In addition, their leader was the master of the Goddess of Ice, and now the Beichuan sect and the Dragon Python Corporation owed a huge favor. It could be said that this battle had made the Dragon Palace famous on the Demon Island. Many forces and experts were wary of their strength. Just the strength displayed by the Dragon Palace alone could probably only be suppressed by the large sect. On the entire Demon Island, there were only 4 large sects. The strength of the Dragon Palace could be considered as one of the top forces on the Demon Island. In addition, the relationship between the Dragon Python Corporation and Beichuan sect, on the Demon Island, other than the large sects, no forces could go against the Dragon Palace. However, even the large sects would show some respect to forces of this level. Xiao Xian, the Star Princess, will be leaving tomorrow. Wang Xian was unaware of what was happening on the Demon Island. In the Dragon Palace, Tang Yinxian came to his side and said, Why is that girl leaving?" Wang Xian was slightly surprised. The Emperor Star Princess had been in the Dragon Palace for a few years, and according to her, she would be returning to the Imperial Court in 2 years to participate in the Young Generation assessment. As long as she passed the assessment, she would be able to enter the Void Kingdom of the Imperial Court, and enter the secret land of the Imperial Court. At the same time, her status in the Imperial Court would be greatly improved. "Going back now?" The Star Princess said that the Imperial Court is also facing the threat of the Deep Abyss. Therefore, the young disciple assessment has been brought forward. As Tang Yinxian spoke, she hesitated for a moment before continuing. "Xiao Xian, are you going with her this time?" Tang Yinxian and Wang Xian knew a little about the Emperor Star Princess. There were 2 types of assessment for the disciples in the Imperial Court. One was strength, and the other was influence. Strength was one's own strength, while influence was the influence under one's hand, and the power that could be mobilized. These 2 criteria were the criteria to evaluate the disciples of the Imperial Court. The stronger one was, the more benefits he would receive. The Emperor Star Princess clearly did not have any influence, but she was strong. The strength of a peak almighty was absolutely invincible in this generation of the Imperial Court. In addition, she had a rank 5 immortal King Realm War Pet, the giant serpent of the galaxy. Her strength was definitely unparalleled in this generation. As for influence, she did not have any. If Wang Xian were to go, he would be able to represent her influence. "If I were to go now," Wang Xian frowned slightly. If it were any other time, Wang Xian would naturally accompany her. However, the war on the Demon Island was extremely fruitful. This was a great opportunity for the Dragon Palace. However, at this moment, the Dragon King Hall suddenly trembled, interrupting his thoughts. He was slightly taken aback. Chapter 2635. What's going on? Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. In a flash, he arrived at the Dragon King Hall. It's the Moon Bay. Wang Xian looked to the right of the Dragon Throne and went to it immediately. The Moon Bay of the ancient pond was a treasure traded during the exchange. It was one of the most valuable treasures of the fairies. He had placed the Moon Bay here for a few days and had not paid attention to it. Wang Xian's eyes lit up as he looked at the Moon Bay. The Moon Bay that he traded previously had a crack on it. It looked like an ancient pond without anything. At this moment, there were drops of crystal clear liquid in the Moon Bay. There was very little liquid, only 5 or 6 drops, dripping down from the branches above. One drop was as red as flames, one was flashing with lightning, one was surrounded by green light, and one was grey. There was a drop in the middle that was as clear as crystal. Wang Xian's eyes lit up and were filled with curiosity. Endless flame, nirvana lightning liquid, normal liquid, soul returning liquid, vitality liquid. Information after information appeared in his mind, causing his eyes to flicker with light. The first 4 drops of liquid were of little value as they were equivalent to 1/20th of the effects of the endless embryo fruit. To Wang Xian, Only the soul-returning liquid was more magical and had a more powerful ability. When the user dripped a drop of blood on the soul-returning liquid, the blood on the soul-returning liquid would be activated and resurrected after the user was killed and the user's body was completely obliterated. Although this ability was still far from the soul-returning fruit, it was already heaven-defying enough. It was equivalent to a second life. Such a treasure was priceless. However, there was a limitation. The soul-returning liquid could only be used once. In other words, no matter how much soul-returning liquid you had, you could only resurrect once. The effects of the endless flame and nirvana lightning liquid were even worse. Of course, this was in Wang Xian's opinion. In fact, the nirvana lightning liquid had the ability to change one's physique. It could turn one's physique into a powerful divine body and increase the speed of cultivation. The last drop of vitality liquid was condensed in the moon bay of the ancient pond. One drop could instantly heal any injury, no matter how serious the injury was. Moreover, this vitality liquid had the ability to detoxify. It was also a rare treasure. These liquids might seem ordinary to me, but their value in the outside world is definitely priceless, especially the soul-returning liquid, which is equivalent to a second life. Wang Xian looked at the liquid and mumbled to himself. He didn't dare to sell the endless embryo fruit or the nirvana thunder embryo fruit, but he could sell these few drops of liquid. A contemplative look appeared on his face. A fruit that could turn a person into a source body. This effect was simply too heaven-defying. Even if the Dragon Palace sold one, it would be coveted by countless forces. However, the effects of these liquids weren't too heaven-defying, so they could still be used. Just that drop of soul-returning elixir alone is enough to raise my cultivation by a level, he murmured. Even Void God Emperor might be tempted by such a life-saving treasure. If a drop of soul-returning liquid could be used to exchange for an undying God King Stage 9 Abyss species corpse, those sects would definitely be willing. The Crescent Moon sect doesn't have the strength to kill an undying God King level 9 Abyss species. The chances of them buying it is low. However, it would definitely fetch a good price in the Imperial Court. Wang Xian mumbled to himself as he pondered. He could follow the Emperor Star Maiden to the Imperial Court. As for the Demon Island, he could only let the Sky Array Prime Minister Turtle handle it. After all, it was important for him to gather the resources to raise his cultivation. Xiao Xian, the effects of these liquids seem to be much weaker than the fruit, Tang Yinxian said as she looked at the liquids in the moon bay. Yeah, other than the vitality liquid, the others are much weaker than the fruits. However, they can be sold. I'm going to follow the Emperor Star Maiden to the Imperial Court. Wang Xian nodded and said to her, "Are you going? If you go, I'm sure the Emperor Star Maiden will be very happy." Tang Yinxian said with a smile. "Let's go. Firstly, to sell these liquids. Secondly, that lass has helped Qingyu and the rest." Wang Xian nodded. He had a good impression of the Emperor Star Maiden. "Where is that lass? I'll let her know." As Wang Xian spoke, he came to the place where the Emperor Star Maiden live. "Star Maiden, Xiao Xian said he would go with you tomorrow," Tang Yinxian said with a smile when she saw the Emperor Star Maiden. "Wow, Wang Xian, at least you have a conscience." "Here it's good that you're with me. When the time comes, I'll suppress everyone in the Imperial Court and let them know how powerful I, the Emperor Star Maiden, am." When the Emperor Star Maiden learned that Wang Xian was going with her, she was excited. With Wang Xian tagging along, she wanted to know which disciple in the Imperial Court could be a match for her. She was clear about the current strength of the Dragon Palace. "Oh, I'm mainly going to the Imperial Court to sell some things," Wang Xian said plainly. "TSK, can't you say something nice?" The Emperor Star Maiden was taken aback when she heard him. Following which, she glared at him. "Let's go to the Imperial Court from the northern line of the Demon Islands tomorrow." Wang Xian smiled and said to her, "All right." The Emperor Star Maiden nodded. The next day, Wang Xian brought a few drops of the liquids with him. Together with the Emperor Star Maiden, Aunt Ying, they went to the northern line of the Demon Islands through the teleportation array of the Dragon Palace. The entire northern side of the Imperial Star Domain has been invaded by the Abyss. I heard that there's a huge crisis lurking in the Imperial Court as well. A war is likely to break out soon. The Emperor Star Maiden came to the northern line, looked at the abyss at the side, and said with a grave expression, "The abyss can threaten the imperial court? There should be a few void god emperors in the imperial court, right?" Wang Xian looked at her and asked doubtfully. "The abyss has existed in the imperial star domain for billions of years. There are also void emperor-level abyss species in there. But I don't know why the abyss dares to invade us this time." The Emperor Star Maiden shook her head and looked around. "There's only one planet at the northern line that can be teleported to the imperial court. It's called the Moon Beckoning Planet. Let's go to the Moon Beckoning Planet." Wang Xian nodded his head and flew ahead. Dragon King. However, when Wang Xian flew to the side of the Dragon Peak, a disciple of the Dragon Palace shouted, "Huh! What's the matter?" He raised an eyebrow and asked. "Dragon King, a group of experts from the Dragon Python group is here to pay a visit. We didn't disturb you when you weren't here. They sent a divine sword over and said that this divine sword was given by you to an expert from the Dragon Python group for a trade. That trader has fallen and is now returning it," the member of the Dragon Palace said as he handed the Dragon Blood Sword over. "Huh!" Wang Xian was taken aback as he took the Dragon Blood Sword. Chapter 2636. Wow, what a beautiful sword. Seeing the Dragon Blood Sword handed over by the members of the Dragon Palace, Emperor Star Maiden's eyes lit up. Wang Xian smiled at her and handed the sword to her. "This is a sword I traded with someone. I didn't expect him to be dead. Now that the sword has been sent over by them, it's a gift to you." Wang Xian smiled and said plainly as he handed the sword to Emperor Star Maiden. Although it's a little inauspicious, I'll accept it reluctantly." Emperor Star Maiden could naturally recognize the power of this sword. However, to her, Wang Xian was a nouveau riche. Naturally, she would accept a gift from a nouveau riche. "Let's go," Wang Xian said to her. Immediately, he wrapped her and Aunt Ying in energy and flew towards the moon beckoning star. The beckoning moon planet was the largest and most prosperous planet of the crescent moon sec. From here, one could be teleported to a planet in the central imperial court and then transited from there. Master. However, when Wang Xian passed by the location of Beichuan sect, Beishuang sensed him and flew over immediately. "Master, where are you going?" Beishuang asked Wang Xian curiously. "I'm going to the Central Island Imperial Court. I'll leave the matters here to Prime Minister Turtle and Sky Array. This trip might take more than half a month." Wang Xian looked at Beishuang, stopped in his tracks, and said to her, "Going to the Central Island Imperial Court?" Beishuang looked a little dazed. Apparently, she recalled something. She lifted her head and said, "Master, I'm going too." "Huh? You're going too?" Wang Xian was taken aback as he looked at her. "I'm going to settle some grudges." Beishuang's eyes gleamed coldly. Clearly, this was something that had happened to her in the past. "All right, let's go together." Wang Xian nodded. "Congratulations, Miss Beishuang. You're back." Aunt Ying looked deeply at Beishuang and said with a smile. Beishuang nodded at Aunt Ying and the Emperor Star Maiden. "Aunt Ying, do you know her?" Beishuang had been in the Dragon Palace for more than a year. However, she had not interacted with the girls, let alone the Emperor Star Maiden and the rest. Moreover, the Emperor Star Maiden and the rest did not know Beishuang. Seeing Aunt Ying congratulating Beishuang, the Emperor Star Maiden couldn't help but ask. "I've heard of her reputation in the past. Back then, the Imperial Court's current Imperial Prince pursued her and caused some trouble." Aunt Ying transmitted her voice to the Emperor Star Maiden. "Oh, really?" The Emperor Star Maiden wasn't even born back then, so she didn't know about this. In the Imperial Court, 5,000 years was equivalent to one generation. This was already a matter of 6 to 7 generations. The Emperor Star Maiden also learned about Beishuang's rise through the artificial intelligence system. However, she didn't know about the gossip between Beishuang and the Imperial Court's prince. In every generation, the strongest male and female of the Imperial Court's younger generation would be called Imperial Prince and Imperial Princess. This was the highest title of this generation. It was also the highest honor. "This time, I want to become the Crown Princess." The Emperor Star Maiden murmured as a resolute look appeared in her eyes. We're here. Soon, the group arrived at the beckoning moon planet. Wang Xian announced. Master, the teleportation portal is over here. As Bei Shuang spoke, he led the way and flew towards the teleportation array. Dragon King, Frost Goddess. At the teleportation array, the Moon Sect's disciple guarding the place called out respectfully. One was the leader of the Dragon Palace after a single battle, and the other was the famous Frost Goddess. Such experts would be respected even if they weren't from the Moon Sect. Bei Shuang nodded, and the four of them entered the teleportation array. Through the teleportation array, they soon arrived at a planet. Then, under the guidance of the Emperor Star Maiden, they began to transfer. After a full 5 hours of transfer, they finally stop. One could imagine how huge the Imperial Court was on the central island. The Imperial Star Domain had a large central island, 3 smaller islands, and various other galaxies. Just the central island alone occupied 3/5 of the entire Imperial Star Domain, and in the central region, the Imperial Court occupied 70% of the planet. According to the artificial intelligence system, the number of planets directly under the control of the Imperial Court was more than 15 billion. More than 15 billion habitable planets. What kind of concept was that? The 2 planets that were the furthest away from each other, even if a pinnacle God King expert were to fly directly, it would still take a few decades. As for the strength of the Imperial Court, it was even more unfathomable. At the very least, there were more than 2 to 3 million immortal king expert. This was the strength of the ruler of the entire Imperial Star Domain. Thinking back to the Battle of Emperor's Fall, the Shaman Union had lost hundreds of thousands of immortal king experts, and all of them were 6th order immortal king and above. This is the Imperial Court's island. The Emperor Star Maiden's voice rang out, and Wang Xian scanned the surroundings with awe. The core of the Imperial Court was not on a planet, but a humongous island. A void island, a humongous land plate. As for how big the entire island was, Wang Xian could not even see the end. The Imperial Court's island is huge, and a pinnacle God King expert would need a month to fly from one side to the other. The Emperor Star Maiden introduced to Wang Xian. Wang Xian clicked his tongue. So this was the Imperial Court. There were thousands of planets in the entire northern region, and if Wang Xian flew from the first to the last, he would probably need a day to fly from the first to the last. But here, even a pinnacle Godlord expert would need a day to fly. Vast, boundless. The entire land plate and the large islands were comparable to the South Star Galaxy. How terrifying. The Imperial Court's island is divided into the inner island and the outer island. Other than the core disciples of the Imperial Court, only those who have reached the Immortal King realm can enter the inner island. The Emperor Star Maiden continued to introduce to Wang Xian. He nodded his head slightly. Let's go, I'll bring you to my house. Upon returning to the Imperial Court's island, the Emperor Star Maiden was clearly in high spirits. She immediately walked to the teleportation array and waved at Wang Xian. The Imperial Court is huge, and you can teleport here. Of course, you can also use the Void Tunnel. The speed of teleportation is faster, and of course, the price is higher. The Emperor Star Maiden said with a smile, and the few of them disappeared. This is the inner island. Soon, the 4 of them appeared in a vast public square. Wang Xian looked ahead, and his eyes lit up. There was a humongous palace in front of him. Looking at the majestic palace, Wang Xian felt as though his body had shrunk by hundreds of times. The palace towered into the clouds, and each pillar was estimated to be hundreds of thousands of meters tall. Just the main hall alone was 10,000 meters tall. The pillars propped up one after another, and it made one feel insignificant. Boundless energy came from the direction of the palace. Even though Wang Xian was hundreds of millions of kilometers away, he could still feel it clearly. Chapter 2637, Vast and Invincible. This was the feeling that the Imperial Court gave Wang Xian. Such a vast and majestic Imperial Court was not something that could be accumulated over thousands, tens of thousands, or even millions of years. The Imperial Court had controlled the Imperial Star Domain for hundreds of millions of years. In these hundreds of millions of years, the Imperial Court had accumulated a terrifying power. Let's go, I'll bring you to my house. As the Emperor Star Maiden spoke, she flew towards the vast palace with a face full of joy. Wang Xian and the rest followed closely behind. Beside her, Bei Shuang's eyes flickered as she looked around. Her eyes were filled with reminiscence and coldness. This time, she was here to let some people know that she, Bei Shuang, was back. At the same time, she wanted to let some people know that she, Bei Shuang, was back. After flying for half an hour behind Emperor Star Maiden, she stopped at a place with mountains and plains in front of the palace. This was a very beautiful place with rivers, lakes, grasslands, and trees. Wild beasts could be seen flying on the grasslands from afar. There were cranes dancing and heavenly horses galloping. Wang Xian's eyes swept across those wild beasts and his heart skipped a beat. 20% of the wild beasts on the grasslands were at the immortal God King level. The rest were at the 6th order Divine Lord level and above. Is this the strength of the Imperial Court? Compared to the Dragon Palace, the gap is too big. Wang Xian murmured. Wang Xian thought that the Dragon Palace was already very strong when he was on the Demon Island. After this upgrade, it could even match up to some of the large sect. But now, it seemed that compared to the Dominator level forces, the gap was still too big. Even if the Imperial Court wanted to destroy the Dragon Palace, it would be a piece of cake. Compared to the Imperial Court, the large sects were still far behind. Ring, ring, ring. Emperor Star Maiden came to a corner of the grasslands, took out a bell and shook it. The ringing of the bell spread far away. Burp. Soon, the sound of cranes could be heard as 3 cranes flew over. On the crane in the middle stood a woman. The woman looked a little like the Emperor Star Maiden and was very beautiful. Star Maiden. The woman looked at the Emperor Star Maiden with eyes filled with love and could not help but call out softly, "Mom." Emperor Star Maiden said with a smile. "Hihi, Sister Star Maiden has not been back for many years. This is the longest she has been away. She even brought back a handsome guy. Star Girl isn't young anymore." The laughter of 2 girls could be heard from the crane beside him. "Greetings, young mistress." The woman on the crane and the 2 women jumped down. The 2 women immediately smiled and called out to the Emperor Star Maiden. It was obvious that their relationship was very good. "Star Lady." The woman opened her arms and hugged the Emperor Star Daughter. "Hihi, Mom, I'm back." The Emperor Star Daughter smiled and hugged her mother. "Yes, my daughter is back. This must be the Dragon King." The lady caressed the Emperor Star Maiden's head as she looked at Wang Xian with a beaming face. "Auntie, just call me Wang Xian." Wang Xian smiled faintly. "Yes, yes. Mom, just call him Wang Xian." "What Dragon King?" The Emperor Star Maiden immediately said. "Hihi, his strength is very strong. My daughter is lucky to be able to meet a noble like you." The woman patted the Emperor Star Maiden's head and smiled as she spoke. "What? He's just lucky," the Emperor Star Maiden said unhappily. "Star Girl and I are friends." Wang Xian looked at the Emperor Star Maiden and smiled. "All right, Mom, let's go back first." The Emperor Star Maiden held her mother's hand as she spoke. "All right, this must be Miss Bei Shuang. Why aren't you introducing her?" The woman nodded her head and looked at Bei Shuang with a smile. Bei Shuang smiled kindly at the woman. "I forgot. The Frost Goddess is Wang Xian's disciple. She's super powerful now." The Emperor Star Maiden smiled sheepishly. "Chirp." The woman made a sound. "Burp, burp." The sounds of cranes could be heard. Soon, a few cranes flew over. The woman sized up the Frost Goddess with sparkling eyes. As she had been paying attention to the news of her daughter, she might know more than the Emperor Star Maiden. "Everyone, please get on the cranes. Let's have a chat at home," the woman said to them as she brought the Emperor Star Maiden to a crane. "Thank you." Wang Xian nodded his head and flew onto a red-crowned crane. The crane he was riding on was a level 1 Undying God King. As for the woman, she was a level 3 Undying God King. According to the Emperor Star Maiden, this woman was one of the tens of thousands of women her father had. She didn't even have a title. "Mom, I've already reached the pinnacle of the eternal Godlord realm. My battle pet, the giant space serpent, has also reached the level 5 Undying God King. I'll definitely become the princess this time. After I become the princess, I'll bring you into the palace. At that time, that guy will also give you a title. The Emperor Star Maiden said to the woman on the crane. Pinnacle of the Almighty God realm? The woman was taken aback as excitement flashed in her eyes. Hihi, Mom, I didn't tell you because I wanted to give you a surprise. The Emperor Star Maiden lifted her head slightly and revealed an excited look. It doesn't matter if you enter the main palace or not. It's not bad here. I'm free. Star Maiden, I'm happy that you're successful. The woman said with a smile. That guy asked you to rear wild beasts here. How is that not bad? The Emperor Star Maiden said with resentment. She was very dissatisfied with her father. She didn't get to see her father even once in a decade. Moreover, her mother was ordered to rear wild beasts here. Although this was a good job for many, to her father, it was the work of a servant. Even the other disciples of her generation called her the daughter of a breeder. Even after she worked hard to become a famous star in the Imperial Star Domain, she was still called an entertainer. All right, Star Maiden. You are you, and your father is your father. Just walk your own path. The woman said plainly. She didn't have a good impression of that flirtatious man. However, that flirtatious man was once a prince. Her family had given her to that man. It was normal that she didn't have a high status. Mom, don't worry. This time, we'll hold our heads high and give everyone a shock. The Emperor Star Maiden lifted her head and said confidently. The woman nodded with a smile. Wang Xian stood on the crane and vaguely heard the conversation between the Emperor Star Maiden and the rest. He understood a little. It wasn't easy being a daughter of the Imperial Court. It was especially so for a powerful force like the Imperial Court. Just the direct disciples alone numbered in the billions and trillions. To stand out from them, one needed talent and hard work. Chapter 2638, Vast and Invincible. This was the feeling Wang Xian got from the Imperial Court. Such a vast and majestic Imperial Court was not something that could be accumulated over thousands of years or even millions of years. The Imperial Court had been in control of the Imperial Star Domain for hundreds of millions of years. In these hundreds of millions of years, the Imperial Court had accumulated a terrifying power. Let's go, I'll bring you to my house. As the Emperor Star Maiden spoke, she flew towards the vast palace with a face full of joy. Wang Xian and the rest followed closely behind. Bei Shuang's eyes flickered as she looked around. Her eyes were filled with reminiscence and coldness. This time, she was here to let some people know that she, Bei Shuang, was back. At the same time, she wanted to let some people know that she, Bei Shuang, was back. After flying for half an hour behind Emperor Star Maiden, Bei Shuang stopped at a place with mountains and plains in front of the palace. This was a very beautiful place with rivers, lakes, grasslands, and trees. Wild beasts could be seen flying on the grasslands from afar. There were cranes dancing and heavenly horses galloping. Wang Xian's eyes swept across those wild beasts and his heart skipped a beat. 20% of the wild beasts on the grasslands were at the immortal God King level. The rest were at the 6th order Divine Lord level and above. Is this the strength of the Imperial Court? Compared to the Dragon Palace, the difference is too great. Wang Xian murmured. Wang Xian thought that the Dragon Palace was already very strong when he was on the Demon Island. After this upgrade, it could even rival some of the large sect. But now, it seemed like the difference was still too great when compared to the Dominator level forces. If the Imperial Court wanted to destroy the Dragon Palace, it would be a piece of cake. Compared to the Imperial Court, the large sects were still far behind. Ring, ring, ring. Emperor Star Maiden came to a corner of the grasslands, took out a bell and shook it. The ringing of the bell spread far away. Burp. Soon, the sound of cranes could be heard. 3 cranes flew over and a woman stood on the crane in the middle. The woman looked a little like the Emperor Star Maiden and was very beautiful. Star Maiden. The woman looked at the Emperor Star Maiden with doting eyes and could not help but call out softly. Mom. Emperor Star Maiden said with a smile. Hehe, little Star Lady hasn't been back for a few years. This is the longest time I've been gone. She even brought back a handsome guy. Star Girl isn't young anymore. The laughter of two girls could be heard from the crane beside him. "Greetings, young mistress." The woman on the crane and the two women jumped down. The two women immediately smiled and called out to the Emperor Star Maiden. It was obvious that their relationship was very good. "Star Lady." The woman opened her arms and hugged the Emperor Star Daughter. "Hee, Mom, I'm back." The Emperor Star Daughter smiled and hugged her mother. "Yes, my daughter is back. This must be the Dragon King." The lady caressed the Emperor Star Maiden's head as she looked at Wang Xian with a beaming face. "Auntie, just call me Wang Xian." Wang Xian smiled faintly. Yes. Mom, just call him Wang Xian." "What Dragon King?" The Emperor Star Maiden immediately said. "Hee, his strength is very strong. My daughter is lucky to be able to meet a noble like you." The woman patted the Emperor Star Maiden's head and smiled as she spoke. "What? It's his luck, that's the truth." The Emperor Star Maiden was displeased. "Star Lady and I are friends." Wang Xian looked at the Emperor Star Maiden and smiled. All right. Mom, let's go back first." The Emperor Star Maiden held her mother's hand as she spoke. "All right, this must be Miss Bei Shuang. Why aren't you introducing her?" The woman nodded her head and looked at Bei Shuang with a smile. Bei Shuang smiled kindly at the woman. "I forgot. The Frost Goddess is Wang Xian's disciple. She's super powerful now." The Emperor Star Maiden smiled sheepishly. "Chirp." The woman made a sound. "Burp, burp." The sounds of cranes could be heard. Following which, a few cranes flew over. The woman sized up the Frost Goddess with sparkling eyes. As she had been paying attention to the news of her daughter, she might know more than the Emperor Star Maiden. "Everyone, please stand on the cranes. Let's have a chat at home," the woman said to them as she brought the Emperor Star Maiden to a crane. "Thank you." Wang Xian nodded his head and flew onto a crane. The crane he was riding on was a level 1 Undying God King. As for the woman, she was a level 3 Undying God King. According to the Emperor Star Maiden, this woman was one of the tens of thousands of women her father had. She didn't even have a title. "Mom, I've already reached the pinnacle of the eternal God-Lord realm. Moreover, my battle pet, the giant space serpent, has also reached the level 5 Undying God King. I'll definitely become the princess this time. After I become the princess, I'll bring you into the palace. At that time, that guy will also give you a title," the Emperor Star Maiden said to the woman on the crane. "Pinnacle of the Almighty God realm?" The woman was taken aback as excitement flashed in her eyes. "Hee, Mom, I didn't tell you because I wanted to give you a surprise." The Emperor Star Maiden lifted her head slightly and revealed an excited look. "It doesn't matter if you enter the main palace or not. It's not bad here. I'm free. Star Maiden, I'm happy that you're successful," the woman said with a smile. "That guy asked you to rear dire beasts here. How is that not bad?" The Emperor Star Maiden said with resentment. She was indeed very dissatisfied with her father. She didn't get to see her father even once in a decade. Moreover, her mother was ordered to rear dire beasts here. Although this was a good job for many, it was just a servant's job to her father. Even the other disciples of her generation called her the daughter of a breeder. Even when she worked hard to become a famous star in the Imperial Star Domain, she was still called an entertainer. "All right, Star Maiden. You are you, and your father is your father. Just walk your own path," the woman said plainly. She didn't have a good impression of that flirtatious man. However, that flirtatious man was once a prince. Her family had given her to that man. It was normal that she didn't have a high status. "Mom, don't worry. This time, we'll hold our heads high and give everyone a shock." The Emperor Star Maiden lifted her head and said confidently. The woman nodded with a smile. Wang Xian stood on the crane and vaguely heard the conversation between the Emperor Star Maiden and the rest. He understood a little. It wasn't easy to become a daughter of the Imperial Court. It was especially so for a powerful force like the Imperial Court. Just the direct disciples alone numbered in the billions or even trillions. In order to stand out, one needed talent and hard work. Chapter 2639, Wang Xian, Sister Beishuang, both of you will stay in this courtyard. The red-crowned crane brought them to a courtyard in the center of the grassland. The Emperor Star Maiden spoke to Wang Xian with a smile. Master, I won't be staying here for the next few days. I have something to deal with. Beishuang looked at Wang Xian and spoke. All right, go ahead. Let me know if there's anything. Wang Xian looked at Beishuang and nodded. Clearly, Beishuang had come to the imperial court to deal with some matters of her own. Wang Xian did not probe further. Doesn't Sister Beishuang live here? A curious expression appeared on the Emperor Star Maiden's face. Aunt Ying had also told her that Beishuang had a grudge against the former imperial prince of the imperial court. Her arrival this time was obviously to settle some grudges. Someone's probably going to be unlucky, she thought to herself. Although the princes of the imperial court were strong, especially the princes from 30,000 years ago who were at least at the immortal God-King realm, they were still much weaker than Beishuang. According to the rules of the imperial court, Beishuang wouldn't say anything even if she beat him up. In a spar between the same generation, even if the imperial court disciples lost terribly, the imperial court wouldn't interfere. Young Master Wang Xian, thank you for taking care of Star Lady during this period. Come and have a taste of the tea leaves that I planted personally, said the woman to Wang Xian with a smile after seeing Beishuang leaving. Yes, Auntie. Wang Xian nodded his head and followed her to a room at the side. Wang Xian, the competition of the current generation disciples of the imperial court will be held the day after tomorrow. You can rest here for the next 2 days, Emperor Star Maiden whispered to Wang Xian. 2 days later. That's great, I also have some matters to deal with. Wang Xian nodded with a smile. What is it? The Emperor Star Maiden glared at him. I want to sell some stuff. Does the imperial court have an auction? It would be best if it's a large one. Wang Xian looked at her and said. Selling the soul-returning elixir was the most important thing here. It was related to whether or not he could improve his strength. Of course there are auctions. The largest auction in the center of the imperial court is the imperial court auction house. I'll take you there tomorrow, the Emperor Star Maiden said to him. All right. Wang Xian nodded his head. Mr. Wang Xian, have a taste of my tea of forgetfulness. The Emperor Star Maiden's mother quickly brought a cup of tea over and placed it beside Wang Xian. Thank you. Wang Xian thanked him politely and received it with both hands. Next, Wang Xian chatted with the Emperor Star Daughter's mother for a while before heading to the courtyard at the side. Star Lady, this young Master Wang Xian is not bad. Cherish him, said the woman to the Emperor Star Maiden with a smile as she watched Wang Xian leave. What? Mom, what are you talking about? The Emperor Star Princess blushed and lowered her head shyly. He doesn't look big, and he's strong. He's the leader of a faction. The youth of the imperial court can't compare to him at all. Let's grab this chance. The woman continued to look at her. Mom, what nonsense are you talking about? How could it be possible between me and him? I have a good relationship with one of his girlfriends. Moreover, how could I like such a playboy? Me. The Emperor Star Maiden shook her head and snorted coldly. All right, Star Maiden, think about it carefully. Your achievements today have already made your mother very proud. The woman stroked her head and said proudly. Imperial Court Auction House. When he returned to the courtyard, Wang Xian took out the artificial intelligence system and did a search. The war is about to begin. The Imperial Court Auction House will be holding a grand auction the day after tomorrow. Welcome all experts and young masters. When he was searching, a message immediately appeared on the artificial intelligence system. Hey! There will be a large-scale auction the day after tomorrow. Wang Xian looked at the information on the screen and revealed a faint smile. The Imperial Court Disciple Competition will be held 2 days later. This auction might be an attempt to attract the youths of the Imperial Court before the competition. Other than that, there should be a lot of treasures for the upcoming war in the abyss. Wang Xian mumbled to himself. However, he wasn't here to buy anything. His main purpose was to sell his items. He took out the artificial intelligence system and sent a message to the Emperor Star Maiden. Wang Xian, what's the matter? After an hour, The Emperor Star Maiden walked over and asked him, "Bring me to the Imperial Court auction house. I want to auction some treasures." Wang Xian said to the Emperor Star Maiden. "You brat, it seems like accompanying me is just along the way," she said unhappily. "Why would I? I'm just selling some items along the way." Wang Xian smiled. He wasn't purposely trying to anger her. "At least you still have some conscience. Let's go. I'll bring you over." The Emperor Star Maiden smiled with satisfaction and led Wang Xian out of the hall. "Let's ride the cranes." After walking out of the courtyard, the Emperor Star Maiden patted the head of a crane and stood on it. Wang Xian was standing beside her. "Let's go to the central market." She patted the crane and said, "Hualala." The crane flapped its wings and flew towards the direction of the palace. The speed of the crane didn't seem fast to Wang Xian. In the surrounding starry sky, he could see people riding on various battle pets. There were also people driving cool flying cars, flying swords, or riding on clouds. On this prosperous and huge island, it was like a paradise. Soon, a bustling market appeared in his sight. Wang Xian could see all kinds of shops: technological weapons, technological robots, technological equipment, array puppets, battle pets, relic equipment. There were all kinds of things. Moreover, each shop had a strong aura. After all, this was the inner island. Only immortal kings and disciples of the imperial court could enter. "We're here. Let's go down." Half an hour later, the Emperor Star Maiden pointed to a huge building below. The building looked like the Colosseum in ancient Rome. However, the interior looked like something out of a science fiction novel. An auction hall that combined technology and cultivation. The entire auction hall could accommodate at least 1 million people. They could land directly from the sky. Both Wang Xian and Star Girl moved and flew downward. "Welcome to the Imperial Court Auction Hall. Our auction will be held the day after tomorrow. Are the two of you here to make your reservation or to submit your items for auction?" A staff walked over and asked politely when they landed in a hall below the auction hall. "Submit my items for auction," said Wang Xian as he swept his gaze across the surroundings. TSK, isn't this the famous star goddess?" Suddenly, at this moment, a voice came from behind. Wang Xian was stunned. The Emperor Star Maiden's face darkened. "HMPH, why? You want my autograph?" Hee. The Emperor Star Maiden turned around and said coldly to the girls behind her. Chapter 2640, Phut, I want your autograph. TSK, an actor's autograph, it's too embarrassing for us. At the other entrance of the auction house, 3 women in skirts stood there, looking at the Emperor Star Maiden with disdain in their eyes. "Hehe, if you think it's embarrassing, why did you call me? Aren't you being cheap?" When the Emperor Star Maiden heard their mockery, her expression turned ice cold. "Ha ha ha, calling us cheap? I don't know who it is, but I heard that our star goddess is being kept as a mistress by a powerful leader. TSK, an old man that's hundreds of thousands of years old. The star goddess is actually willing to eat him. It seems like our star goddess has sacrificed a lot for this disciple tournament. It's not just sacrificed a lot, it's practically sacrificed everything. Ha ha ha." The mocking voices came out from the mouths of the 3 women, sounding exceptionally ear-piercing. When the Emperor Star Maiden heard their words, a look of anger appeared on her face. "Are you looking for a beating?" The Emperor Star Maiden narrowed her eyes and stared coldly at the 3 of them. "What? Want to teach us a lesson? Tomorrow, we will let everyone know that entertainers will always be entertainers. In this world, only the strong are respected." The woman in the center coldly stared at the Emperor Star Maiden. "There's no need to wait until tomorrow. Just you 3 pieces of trash." With a wave of her hand, the dragon blood sword appeared in her hand. At the same time, she tossed out an item that instantly enveloped the 4 of them. "Emperor Star Maiden, you're courting death. You want to spar with us at this time?" When the 3 girls saw the Emperor Star Maiden releasing the sparring formation, their faces turned cold. "Today, I'll teach you 3 annoying fellows a lesson." The Emperor Star Maiden coldly snorted and casually swung the dragon blood sword at the 3 of them. You're asking for a beating. The three girls coldly roared. A whip and two sharp swords attacked the Emperor Star Maiden. Bam, bam, bam. However, what shocked the three girls was that the sharp swords and long whips in their hands instantly crumbled after being struck by the energy of the dragon blood sword. How is this possible? The expressions of the three of them changed drastically. As disciples of the imperial court, the weapons in their hands were not ordinary weapons. Although they were not very powerful divine weapons, they were still very powerful. But now, it was defeated in an instant. With your strength, you're not even fit to be my maid. The Emperor Star Maiden casually swung the dragon blood sword in her hand again, and a powerful energy slashed towards the three of them. Not good. The three of them panicked and hurriedly dodged to the side. Pu pu pu. But in the next moment, the sword light landed on their bodies, and deep wounds instantly appeared on their bodies. How can you be so strong? The expressions of the three girls changed drastically. Their eyes widened as they screamed in disbelief. H, you'd better take a detour when you see me in the future. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. The Emperor Star Maiden coldly swept her gaze over the three of them. With a wave of her hand, she retracted the sparring formation. Their expressions changed drastically and their hearts skipped a beat. A few years ago, the Emperor Star Princess's strength was similar to theirs, only at the 5th level of the Eternal Divine Lord realm. How could she be so powerful now? These past few years, in order to increase their strength, they had also casually eaten elixirs, but it was only able to increase their strength by 1 level. But the Emperor Star Maiden could easily defeat them. Based on their senses, he had at least the strength of an eternal divine master. With such strength, she could definitely compete with the Emperor Star Maiden. Get lost. The Emperor Star Maiden stared at the three of them and shouted. Let's go. The three girls were somewhat unwilling. They looked at each other with fear and left directly. How could her strength increase so quickly? Her sugar daddy must have given her some powerful elixir or supreme treasure, otherwise, the three of them covered their wounds and roared in a low voice with pale faces. They did not lack cultivation elixirs, and the only thing that could allow them to increase their strength quickly was their aptitude and talent. If their strength was similar a few years ago, then they must have encountered some great fortuitous encounter. Moreover, they had also heard from other disciples that the Emperor Star Maiden was now very close to the leader of a decent force. Therefore, some female disciples spread the rumor that she had become a sugar daddy of a force's leader. After all, the entertainment circle was a filthy place in the eyes of these disciples. Those so-called celebrities were just entertainers in their eyes. And with their status and identity, celebrities were indeed entertainers. Hey, that's pretty impressive. But why didn't I know that you have become a sugar daddy of an old man? Wang Xian laughed and asked teasingly when he saw the Emperor Star Maiden defeating the three girls in a domineering manner. I think you're asking for a beating too. The Emperor Star Maiden glared at Wang Xian and raised the dragon blood sword in her hand. TSK, you want to beat me up with the dragon blood sword that I gave you? Sigh, how heartless. Wang Xian laughed. Shut up. Those guys actually said that I'm a sugar daddy of an old man. Damn it. The Emperor Star Maiden said with hatred. The staff of the auction house did not react to this scene at all. On the island of the Imperial Court, as long as the buildings were not destroyed, and after setting up the battle formation, one could fight at any time. Of course, disciples of the Imperial Court were prohibited from fighting to the death. Once someone died, regardless of who was in the wrong, they would be executed immediately. Young master, young mistress, please take out the items you have put up for auction. Our auction house will appraise them before confirming if they are qualified to be auctioned. The staff asked Wang Xian and the rest. I obtained this drop of soul rejuvenation elixir by chance in a treasure trove. As long as a drop of blood is poured into the soul rejuvenation elixir, the host will be able to revive from the soul rejuvenation elixir if they die. It is definitely a priceless treasure. As Wang Xian spoke, he took out a jade bottle with a drop of greyish liquid in it. The greyish liquid exuded a mysterious energy. When the staff heard Wang Xian, they were shocked. Young master, we'll get the experts from the auction house to appraise it immediately. Please wait a moment. the staff said to Wang Xian immediately as they walked to the back with the jade bottle. Huh? Star Maiden, they won't run away with my treasures, right? Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and asked when he saw the staff leaving with the soul-returning fluid. You're thinking too much. Even if your soul-returning fluid has such a miraculous effect, they won't run away. This is opened by the imperial court. Bei Shuang rolled her eyes at him and said, That's hard to say. My soul-returning fluid is a priceless treasure that can save my life. Wang Xian smiled. However, he believed what Bei Shuang said. The imperial court would not do such a thing. It's indeed a priceless treasure that can save your life. The fruits on your dragon throne are not bad either. Give me a few in the future. The Emperor Star Maiden nodded her head slightly and said casually, Dream on. Wang Xian looked at her. Chapter 2641, Exciting pop-up window for free reading. Grandmaster Di, there is a young man who has sent us a treasure. He said that the effect of this treasure is heaven-defying. As long as you drip a drop of blood on it, you will be able to be resurrected after you die. I can see that it possesses incredible power. I'm here to get Grandmaster Di to appraise it. Just as Wang Xian and Emperor Star Maiden were conversing outside, the staff brought the soul-returning fluid to a room at the back and whispered, Huh! Resurrection from a drop of blood. The door opened automatically and the staff hurried in. In the room, an old man stood up and looked at the staff member. Grandmaster Di, I can't understand this treasure. Please appraise it. The old man was the Grandmaster Appraisal of the Imperial Court. At the same time, he was the strongest in the Imperial Court auction house. With the strength of a level 9 immortal king and the ability to appraise thousands of items, his status in the Imperial Court was relatively high. Amazing. So powerful. Grandmaster Di took the soul-returning fluid and his eyes lit up. Wang. He moved his arm and took out a book. There were no words on the book. However, when he placed the soul-returning fluid on the tree, words began to appear on the book. Soul-returning fluid, soul-returning fluid. Such a treasure is rare. This is equivalent to a life. It's a pity that there is too little soul-returning fluid. At most, it can support the resurrection of experts below the Emperor God realm. Even so, it's a treasure that can save one's life. Grandmaster Di murmured as he looked at the soul-returning fluid passionately. Such a treasure can be used as the finale of the auction. Ask that young man if he has more of such a treasure. As long as there is such a treasure, it will definitely be fought over. Forget it. I'll go over, he said immediately. Huh? It's Grandmaster Di. The staff at the side was slightly shocked, and immediately nodded his head. Young man, this soul-returning fluid was consigned to the auction by you, right? Grandmaster Di walked into the hall and asked immediately when he saw Wang Xian and Emperor Star Maiden. Grandmaster Di. Emperor Star Maiden was shocked to see the old man and greeted him respectfully. Grandmaster Di nodded his head and looked at Wang Xian. Yes. Have you appraised it? Wang Xian nodded his head and asked. A life-saving divine item, a supreme treasure. I don't know if young master has such a treasure. Such a precious treasure will definitely attract crazy bids. Grandmaster Di said with a smile. I only got one drop of soul-returning liquid back then. Wang Xian shook his head and revealed a hesitant look. Oh. Grandmaster Di saw his hesitation and said, Young master, don't worry. Our imperial court will not covet young master Mo's treasure, haha. When I first obtained this liquid, I also obtained a few other types. I don't even know the effects of some of them. Upon hearing his words, Wang Xian hesitated for a moment before replying intentionally. He took out the constant liquid, endless flame, nirvana lightning liquid, and vitality liquid. Grandmaster Di's expression changed slightly, and he immediately held it in his hand. Good, good, good. What a pure flame, it can change a human's constitution. What a pure lightning, it can also change a human's constitution. What a spiritual energy, it can completely awaken the sentience of wild beasts and plants. What a huge life force, just a single drop can instantly heal a peak undying God King. Grandmaster Di's face was filled with astonishment, and he couldn't help but exclaim with his eyes wide open. "These are all supreme treasures," he exclaimed. Upon hearing his exclamation, Wang Xian's eyes flickered, but he did not say a word. "Young master, if all these supreme treasures are put up for auction at our imperial court auction house, we can auction the rest for free, except for the soul-returning liquid. What do you think?" Grandmaster Di said to Wang Xian immediately. "Sure, but I have a request. I would like to use the equivalent value of the corpse of the abyss species or elixir pills to settle the payment." Wang Xian nodded and said, "No problem." Grandmaster Di nodded immediately and waved his arm. "These are the proof of your items. These are the slots for the auction the day after tomorrow." "Great." Wang Xian nodded and took it with a smile. "If you have any more of such treasures, you can come to our imperial court auction house to auction them." Grandmaster Di said again. "Sure, I only have these with me." Wang Xian smiled and shook his head. Grandmaster Di looked into his eyes and confirmed that he was telling the truth. He nodded his head slightly. "Wow, Wang Xian, you have so many good things." Bei Shuang could not help but comment when the two of them came out. "It's a pity that I'm not an old man. Otherwise, I would consider keeping you as my mistress," Wang Xian said with a smile. "Scram. I've recorded your conversation and will send it to Yinxian later." Emperor Star Princess stared at him. Wang Xian was speechless. Wang Xian followed Bei Shuang back to the plains. He did not go out for a stroll. The next day, he spent the entire day looking at the information on the smart computer. Is the Emperor Star Princess so powerful? How is this possible? How can she be so strong? Just as Wang Xian was staying at Bei Shuang's house, a group of women gathered in a side hall of the vast palace in the imperial court. They were all shocked. Compared to the central island, the requirements to enter the vast palace were stricter. To stay here, one had to be at least a 5th-level immortal king. For women, they had to be the wife and children of a 5th-level immortal king expert. Of course, for women who were at least a 5th-level immortal king, the imperial court would also be given a side hall. As the saying went, the imperial court had an outer island and an inner island. The inner island was further divided into the vast palace and the outer area. It could be said to be a ladder and a circle. The inner area of the vast palace was naturally the core. The younger generation of the core would naturally form their own circle and look down on the disciples outside. In the side hall, 3 women sat there with ugly expressions on their faces. The surrounding women were shocked. The strength of the 3 women was not weak among them. However, they were defeated by the Emperor Star Princess in a single move. Many people were shocked. That actress seems to have found a connection with the leader of a decent force. She must have exchanged some treasures from them, the 3 women said with sullen faces. Qingshan seems to have paid attention to the Emperor Star Princess in the past. He should know more. "I've already asked Qingshan to come over," one of the women said with a frown. "All right, so what if he knows? In the grand competition 2 days later, no one will be able to stop the phoenix cry of the 9 heavens." In the middle, a woman in snow-white clothes said faintly. She stood up and walked out of the hall with a bored look on her face. "Sister Plain, we just want to know how strong the Emperor Star Princess is. However, the Emperor Star Princess of our generation will definitely be yours," some of the women said when they saw the woman in snow-white clothes leaving. "Of course," the woman in snow-white clothes said indifferently. Chapter 2642. As the lady in white walked out, the rest of the ladies started discussing among themselves. They could be said to be the core of the current generation of women in the imperial court. They had the best resources and the best background. Back then, when the Emperor Star Lady suddenly rose to fame and became the hottest superstar in the imperial star domain, she had attracted their attention. They naturally looked down on a girl who raised a wild beast and was the daughter of a nobody in the imperial court. However, her rise had attracted the attention of many people. Many of the ladies were extremely jealous of the Emperor Star Lady. After all, many famous young men of the current generation liked her. "Ladies, what can I do for you?" At this time, a voice came from outside the door. A young man in green walked in with a haughty look on his face. "Qingshan, you're here. We have something to ask you." How is the faction that the Emperor Star Lady is relying on? The three ladies asked immediately when they saw the young man walking over. Tchem. The young man's face darkened when he heard their words. What's wrong? His eyes flashed as he asked. The Emperor Star Lady is very strong now. She might have reached the 8th Order or even the 9th Order Godlord realm, the three ladies said solemnly. Their words caused the young man's face to change again. He walked to the side with a gloomy face. The faction that the Emperor Star Lady is relying on is called the Dragon Palace. They are very strong and are considered a first-rate faction, the young man said expressionlessly as he sat on a chair. First-rate faction? Will that first-rate faction listen to the Emperor Star Lady's orders? In the main hall, everyone's expression changed slightly. That's impossible, but even if they could send a 7th Order Immortal God King Realm expert, there are very few disciples in our generation who can match up to them. The young man clenched his fists. When the Emperor Star Lady was close to that faction, he had tried to destroy the Dragon Palace. Unfortunately, he had failed. In just a few years, the Dragon Palace had somehow improved to a shocking level. This kind of faction was not something that the younger generation could match up to. Doesn't that mean that the Emperor Star Lady has the right to fight for the position of Emperor? All the ladies in the hall were shocked. The young man sat there silently, his expression not looking good. Back then, when he tried to woo the Emperor Star Maiden, he had embarrassed him in front of everyone. He had said that if he couldn't get her, he would destroy her. Now, perhaps everyone will have to change their attitude towards the Emperor Star Maiden. In any case, I've never interacted with her before. Oh, by the way, are you interested in going to the auction tomorrow? Shall we go together? By the way, have you heard? This morning, a woman challenged many of our seniors. At this moment, one of the women changed the topic. The other woman immediately spoke as well. Obviously, she didn't want to talk about the Emperor Star Maiden anymore. Time passed quickly. A day had passed as Wang Xian looked at all kinds of rich information on the artificial intelligence system. Let's go, the auction will be held at noon. On the morning of the second day, the Emperor Star Maiden came to the courtyard where Wang Xian was staying and shouted, "He's here." Wang Xian walked out immediately with a face full of smiles. After this auction ended, the resources obtained would definitely allow him to advance another level. Once he did, he would have the battle prowess of a 9th Order Immortal God King. With such strength, he could be considered an expert in the Imperial Court. No matter how strong the Imperial Court was, they would at most have a few hundred 9th Order Immortal God Kings. Moreover, he had only intended to sell the soul-returning liquid. Now that he had sold a few more drops of divine liquid, the remaining resources should be able to increase the battle prowess of 4 to 5 9th Order Immortal God King. Let's go. The Emperor Star Maiden stood on the divine crane and waved at him. When the auction starts, if there's anything you like, I'll pay for it. Wang Xian said in a good mood. You said it yourself. The Emperor Star Maiden did not stand on ceremony with him and narrowed her eyes. Of course. Wang Xian smiled and nodded his head. Hehe. At least you're human. The Emperor Star Maiden could not help but laugh. Hey! Why are there so many people, and so many experts? When Wang Xian and the group arrived above the auction, the Emperor Star Maiden exclaimed in surprise. The interval between the auctions was not long, but this time, the number of people had increased significantly, and there were many experts from the Imperial Court. It's better to have more experts. Wang Xian smiled. The more experts there were, the higher the price of the soul-returning liquid would be. The two of them leaped down from the divine crane and landed in the auction hall. Di Tianyao, you're here too. Haha, Grandmaster Di said that there are a few supreme treasures here. Naturally, I have to come and take a look. The items this time are very precious. I heard that some elders and guardians are here. The chances of us getting it are a little slim. How can we not fight for such life-saving treasures? Moreover, there's more than one supreme treasure. However, with the appearance of the supreme treasures, the auction hall has run out of rooms. We can only go to the outside hall. Haha, not only you, but many seniors will be in the hall. When the two of them landed, they heard the discussions around them. Wang Xian raised an eyebrow and revealed a smile. He did not expect so many people to be here for his treasures. You're going to be rich, the Emperor Star Maiden whispered as she looked at Wang Xian. Hee, it's all right. Let's go to our room. Wang Xian smiled and took out a token. This was a private box given to him by the Grand Master Di of the sect. As the consigner of several supreme treasures, it was only right for him to be given a private room. The Emperor Star Maiden nodded and the two of them walked to the side. Another familiar face. When Wang Xian and the Emperor Star Maiden walked towards the private room, he saw a group of dozens of girls walking towards them. The leader was a girl in white clothes. Beside her were three familiar figures. They were the three girls whom the Emperor Star Maiden had taught a lesson to previously. The Emperor Star Maiden looked over and her eyes flickered. Her aura was not weak at all. The group of girls in front also noticed the Emperor Star Maiden. They did not make way, nor did the Emperor Star Maiden avoid them. The leader of the girls in white clothes fixed her eyes on the Emperor Star Maiden and sized her up. When they met, the Emperor Star Maiden stopped in her tracks and remained unmoved. Emperor Star Maiden, I heard that you're very strong. I hope you won't disappoint me tomorrow. The girl in white clothes stared at the Emperor Star Maiden and said plainly, I will. The Emperor Star Maiden looked at the girl in white clothes and nodded. Aren't you going to make way? As soon as the Emperor Star Maiden finished her words, one of the three girls whom she had taught a lesson to spoke with a sullen face. I might have to trouble you to make way. Our private room is beside you. The Emperor Star Maiden lifted her head slightly and said plainly. Chapter 2643, Wonderful Pop-Up Window for Free Reading. The Emperor Star Maiden's words caused the white-robed woman to be stunned. The surrounding people were also stunned. Private room. The girl who spoke to Emperor Star Maiden was taken aback and her expression changed. You have a private room. You want a private room with your status? What a joke. The woman said with a cold smile on her face. Excuse me. Wang Xian watched from the side. He couldn't help but pick up the card in his hand, wave it off, and walk away. The girls made way for him instinctively when they saw Wang Xian walking over. Click. Wang Xian came to the front of the private room and swiped the card in his hand. The door opened immediately. Beautiful Lady Emperor Star Maiden, please come in. Wang Xian pretended to be a gentleman as he made an inviting gesture towards her and said with a smile. Emperor Star Maiden couldn't hold back her smile as she walked in. Bam! The door closed and the girl's expressions changed. How did she get a private room? This. With her status, one of the girls couldn't help but ask. In normal auctions, it was still possible for them to get a private room with their status, but in this auction, how could they get one? There was news from yesterday that there would be several powerful treasures for sale in this auction, and one of them was a life-saving treasure. This made many elders and even protectors of the imperial court come. For such an auction, the private rooms were naturally reserved for the elders and guardians. Even some 7th or 8th order Immortal King Realm experts might not be able to get a private room, but they had their own private room. Maybe they booked the private room in advance. The girl in white frowned but didn't take it to heart. She walked to the seat beside her. That's so satisfying. I hate their arrogant attitude the most. Me. Emperor Star Maiden entered the private room and said happily, Aren't you going to thank me for my cooperation? Wang Xian smiled and sat by the side. All right, thank you, Mr. Wang Xian. Emperor Star Maiden smiled. The two of them sat in the private room and waited quietly. There were many people in this auction. Wang Xian looked around and realized there were about 70 to 80,000 Divine King expert. Vaguely, there were some God King powerhouses that could pose a slight threat to him. The auction was about to start. One by one, the items were auctioned off. The items that had just been auctioned off also caused quite a bit of competition. The soul returning elixir, vitality elixir, and so on were considered the finale items. They would only be auctioned at the end. Wang Xian had been waiting, but the Emperor Star Princess did not bid for anything. We're almost there. Many important figures of the Imperial dynasty have come for your treasure. 2 hours later, it was finally the last few items. In this auction, There are a total of 6 ultimate treasures. Now, let's start with the 6th. The 6th treasure is the drinking liquid. Drinking the drinking liquid can cause any non-sentient creature to gain sentience. Even if it's an ordinary plant, a single drop of it can give it sentience. If you give it to your battle pet, it can give it intelligence, just like a beast. Also, according to Grandmaster DI's speculation, it can enhance a person's power of understanding. This is a rare treasure. The starting bid is 100 square divine stones. Drinking liquid, endless flame, nirvana lightning liquid, vitality elixir, and soul returning elixir were Wang Xian's items. The remaining one should be the original finale item. The starting bid was 1 square divine stone. 1 square divine stone was equivalent to 10 rank 5 immortal king realm elixir pills. The starting bid was not low, but it was still an ultimate treasure of heaven and earth. 110. The auction started, and soon, someone made a bid. In the end, the drinking liquid was bought by an Imperial Dynasty expert for 500 square divine stones. The next item was the endless flame. The endless flame could change a person's physique, granting them a strong fire attribute physique, and increase their cultivation speed by a few times. The starting bid for the endless flame was much higher, at 1,000 square divine stones. Moreover, the endless flame had also caused a commotion in the auction, with experts bidding one after another. In the end, the price was set at 12,000 square divine stones. I have enough resources for my own breakthrough. Wang Xian calculated the resources that 12,000 square divine stones could be exchanged for, and his eyes shone with excitement. The next item is the nirvana lightning liquid. The effect of this nirvana lightning liquid is similar to the endless flame, except for the lightning attribute. The auction for the nirvana lightning liquid began, and this time, the price was much higher than the endless flame. It was sold for 18,000 square divine stones. The last 3 items, which are also the 3 that Master Emperor thinks are the most valuable. Now, let's start with the 3rd item, a drop of vitality liquid. After consuming it, anyone below the Void God Emperor realm can recover instantly, no matter how serious their injuries are. It's equivalent to a second life. The 3rd treasure, the vitality liquid, was rated higher than the endless flame by Master Emperor. This treasure was equivalent to a second life, and it could recover to its peak in an instant. It was definitely a powerful treasure. The starting bid for the vitality liquid was 20,000 square divine stones, and in the end, it was bought by a person in a private room for 25,000 square divine stone. The one who made a move just now seems to be Guardian Yuan. It should be Guardian Yuan. Guardian Yuan is a peak god king, and such a treasure is very important to an expert of his level. After the sale of the vitality liquid, some people discussed softly. Guardian Yuan made a move. If not for him, the price might be higher. Emperor Star Princess whispered in the private room. Don't worry, this is a good price. Wang Xian squinted his eyes. He was very satisfied with this price. But there's a treasure that's even more valuable than the vitality liquid. I wonder what it is, he murmured. The 2nd treasure is an offensive divine weapon, called the Slaying Gourd. The gourd can nurture sword chi, and when the sword chi is released, it has the destructive power of a peak immortal king. At this time, the 2nd last treasure was taken out. On the stage, an old man held an ancient green gourd in his hand. The gourd looked extremely ordinary, but when the old man opened the cover of the gourd, an extremely sharp sword chi floated above it. The sword chi was green in color, and the sharpness of the sword radiance made one feel a little bone-chilling. This immortal slaying gourd can nurture a stream of sword chi every 10 years, and the sword chi can be accumulated. Moreover, the wind elemental law can speed up the nurturing of sword chi. Such a treasure is extremely powerful. The old man continued to introduce. So powerful. Doesn't that mean that the eternal God Lord can kill a 7th or 8th order immortal king with it? Inside the private room, Emperor Star Princess exclaimed in shock. It can't be done. The sword chi is too sharp, and anyone below the 5th order immortal king realm will not be able to withstand it. But this immortal slaying gourd is indeed a rare treasure, Wang Xian said slowly as he stared at the immortal slaying gourd. Chapter 2644. This celestial slaying gourd can only be used by 5th order immortal king and above. The weak will not be able to withstand its sharpness. Such a treasure can be used as a powerful trump card and killing move. The old man on the stage also reminded. The weak would not be able to handle such a powerful weapon. The starting bid is 30,000 square divine stones. The highest bidder wins. Experts, please place your bids. The bidding for the celestial slaying gourd began 31,000 square divine stones. Just as he finished his words, someone made a bid 32,000 square divine stones. 33,000 square divine stones, 35,000 square divine stones. Voices came from the surrounding boxes. Such a treasure would definitely be a great killing move for those below the pinnacle of Immortal King Realm. The experts made their bids one after another. Many of them looked determined to get it, 36,000 square divine stones. Wang Xian sat in the box, squinted his eyes, and started bidding. Ever since he got the progenitor tree and knew its effects, Wang Xian was very interested in such a plant treasure. This celestial slaying gourd could nurture sword radiance. It was indeed miraculous. As for the gourd, it was a type of plant. Could it evolve and be upgraded? If it had the destructive power of a divine king after upgrading, it would be even more powerful. Since it could not be upgraded, this celestial slaying gourd could also be a trump card, 40,000 square divine stones. After Wang Xian made his bid, a voice came from the box in front. Haofeng, not bad. Looks like you got quite a lot of divine stones from the Eternal Holy Kingdom. TSK, you're really rich. In the box in front, a dozen middle-aged and old men were sitting there. When they saw a middle-aged man bidding, they were slightly surprised. Haha, I'm just lucky. It just so happens that I don't have a life-saving trump card. This celestial slaying gourd is mine. The middle-aged man smiled, full of confidence. Haofeng, you're pretty confident. An old man looked at him and asked plainly. Hehe, it's mainly because this thing is useless to the guardians. There won't be many guardians competing for it. I should be able to get it. The middle-aged man looked at the old man and said respectfully. The guardians probably won't compete with you. The old man smiled faintly. 41,000 cubes. However, at this moment, a voice rang out. The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard it and looked towards the private room behind him. 44,000 cubes. Just as he finished speaking, the voice continued, 45,000. The middle-aged man frowned slightly. 46,000. The other side immediately followed, 48,000. The middle-aged man's face was grave, and he immediately followed. Hey! Who was in that private room? Looks like you've met your match, Haofeng. A middle-aged man in the private room looked over and said with a smile. 50,000 cubes. After the middle-aged man called Haofeng shouted, the voice on the other side continued. Any higher and it won't be worth it. In the private room, the protector who spoke just now said indifferently. The middle-aged man's expression also changed slightly. He gritted his teeth and said, 52,000, 53,000. As soon as he finished speaking, the other side immediately followed. This caused the middle-aged man's expression to turn ugly. He shook his head slightly and looked at the private room. Which elder is in that private room? So rich, he said with a frown. No, it's 2 disciples who look younger. Interesting. The old protector looked over and his eyes flickered. 2 young disciples? How can a young disciple have so many divine stones? The middle-aged man was taken aback and was shocked. The price is already too high. It's not suitable to continue competing, the old Dharma protector reminded indifferently. The middle-aged man nodded his head and felt a little indignant. I reckon many old fellows will be competing for the next item. The old protector straightened his back slightly and murmured, what a tycoon. In the private room where Wang Xian and the rest were, the Emperor Star Maiden said enviously when she saw Wang Xian winning the bid for the celestial slaying gourd. I've used up some of the divine stones from selling the vitality fluid and undying flames. I'll have to rely on the last item to recoup my losses. Wang Xian chuckled softly. The last item was also the last supreme treasure for today's auction. A supreme treasure that could save one's life was the dream of all the expert. Soul-returning fluid was a true second life. When the auction for the soul-returning fluid started, there weren't many bidders. There were only 4 old men. As the 4 old men spoke, the rest of the people in the auction hall watched quietly. These were the 4 protectors. Each of them was a real big shot in the imperial court. They were the strongest existences below the emperor god level. The bidding for the soul-returning fluid was very fast and ended in less than a minute. The final price was 93,000 square divine stones. Wang Xian's eyes lit up with excitement when he saw this number. After this upgrade, the Dragon Palace could increase the combat power of 6 to 7 9th level immortal kings. It was the right decision to come to the imperial court this time. If he brought something like the soul-returning embryo fruit, even the Void God Emperor would come. Of course, Wang Xian wouldn't dare to bring it out. Young master, this is the celestial slaying gourd for you to bid on. These are the remaining resources from the auction. I've already exchanged them for elixir pills. After the auction ended, a staff member came to the private room and handed the treasures and resources to Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded his head and received it with flickering eyes. He held on to 2 fist-sized celestial slaying gourds and injected waves of wood attribute energy into them. In an instant, Wang Xian could feel the green celestial slaying gourd vibrating gently. This is a treasure. Wang Xian's eyes flashed with excitement. With a wave of his hand, the celestial slaying gourd disappeared instantly. At the same time, a green gourd appeared on the progenitor tree. It wasn't located below the progenitor tree, but above it. It was at the same level as the boundless wood and the soul-returning wood. What surprised Wang Xian was that the branches of the boundless wood and nirvana thunder tree were gently wrapped around it. A sword aura came out from the celestial slaying gourd and circled around it. Let's go. While Wang Xian was still sensing the wonders of the celestial slaying gourd, he heard Emperor Star Maiden's voice. All right. Wang Xian's lips curved into a smile as he regained his composure and followed her out of the private room. When he walked out of the private room, he noticed a few pairs of eyes looking in their direction. Wang Xian swept a glance and didn't pay much attention to them as he walked out. Yun Haofang, there are indeed 2 young people in that private room. Are they disciples of the imperial court? That lady looks familiar. A few middle-aged men walked out from the private room in front. One of them raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise, "She's my niece." As for the young man beside her, "Let's get to know each other." As the middle-aged man spoke, he flew up into the sky immediately. In an instant, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Wang Xian, Emperor Star Maiden, and the rest. Emperor Star Maiden looked at the middle-aged man and was shocked. Chapter 2645. There was no pop-up window for free reading. Second uncle. Emperor Star Maiden looked at the middle-aged man in shock as she called out to him. The middle-aged man who suddenly appeared before Wang Xian had a head of silver hair. He looked cold and had a smile on his face. The way Emperor Star Maiden addressed him made Wang Xian take a closer look at the young man before him. A 5th order undying god king, he thought to himself. With such strength and seniority, he could be considered one of the top experts in the imperial court. Emperor Star Maiden, right? Did you guys buy the celestial slaying gourd? The middle-aged man looked at Emperor Star Maiden with a smile. Second uncle, my friend bought it. The Emperor Star Maiden looked at her second uncle with slight surprise as she spoke. She only knew that this uncle of hers had spoken less than 3 sentences to her, including what he had just said. Oh. Ask your friend if he's willing to part with it. I'll buy it at the auction price. The middle-aged man said to Emperor Star Maiden as he looked at Wang Xian. He could sense that Wang Xian was very young. As for his strength, he couldn't tell. This piqued his curiosity. Emperor Star Maiden was taken aback as she looked like she was in a difficult position. Haofang, haha. Are you still not satisfied? At this time, a few middle-aged men flew over and spoke to the middle-aged man with smiles. The war is about to start. I have to get something to protect myself. The middle-aged man smiled faintly at them. How about this little brother? You're still young and don't need the celestial slaying gourd. If you agree, I can give you some pointers. Of course, You can also find someone stronger to guide you. The middle-aged man landed on Wang Xian and asked plainly. I'm sorry. Wang Xian shook his head. Huh. The middle-aged man frowned as he looked at Emperor Star Maiden. Given your strength, I don't think you need it. This little brother should have some background. Let's form a good relationship. He pondered for a moment before continuing. He had been longing for the celestial slaying gourd ever since he knew about it. He had obtained great opportunities and possessed a large number of divine stones. Such a powerful trump card would increase his strength by leaps and bounds. Wang Xian looked at him and shook his head. He's still a little young. This little brother shouldn't be a disciple of the imperial court. Haofang, I think you should look for the elders of his family to trade with. When the middle-aged man saw this scene, he smiled and patted the middle-aged man on the shoulder. The silver-haired middle-aged man looked at Wang Xian coldly and nodded his head. As for threatening them here, he didn't dare to do so. The imperial court had its own rules. Looking at his cold expression, Wang Xian let out a sarcastic laugh. What a disappointment. Let's go. The silver-haired middle-aged man took a deep look at Wang Xian before speaking to his companion beside him. Di Haofang. However, right at this moment, an incomparably chilly voice sounded out. Who? When Di Haofang heard this voice, he immediately frowned and looked over. When Wang Xian heard this voice, he suddenly found it extremely familiar. He looked up and saw an incredibly familiar figure, North Frost. Hey! Sister Beishuang knows my second uncle? The Emperor Star Maiden looked over, and a look of astonishment appeared on her face. Wang Xian stood there and watched with flickering eyes. Around them, some people were also attracted by this chilly voice and looked over with doubt. North Frost, you. When Di Haofang saw North Frost's chilly gaze, his face instantly turned ugly. It's time to pay back the humiliation from 30,000 years ago. You're really good at hiding these few days. North Frost locked her chilling eyes on him as she spoke with a murderous look. North Frost, I merely asked someone to teach you a lesson more than 30,000 years ago. How could you be so petty to remember it for more than 30,000 years? I've also heard that you've obtained the cultivation method not long ago. Congratulations. Di Haofang said in a deep voice with a sullen expression. Then you can treat me as that petty person. North Frost sneered. The next moment, she made her move. A sparring array instantly shrouded Di Haofang, following which, before Di Haofang could react, North Frost had already dashed in front of him. Don't worry, I know all the rules of the imperial court. 30,000 years ago, a dignified prince like you was suppressed by me. At that time, you even wanted to propose marriage to my North Chuan sect. After I rejected you, you found someone to bully me when I was lonely. As a dignified prince, even a woman like me can't match your breadth of mind. North Frost grabbed his neck with her frost claws, immobilizing him. Fart. As soon as she finished her sentence, her sharp claws pierced through his shoulder. North Frost, you, stop it. Di Haofang could feel the excruciating pain on his face as he couldn't help but yell in a low voice. Stop it. North Frost's eyes were cold as she grabbed one of his arms with her frost claws. Fart. The next moment, she tore it off with her powerful strength. A painful scream was heard. Elder, save me. Di Haofang's eyes were filled with fear as he yelled frantically. He didn't look as cool and cold as before. It's just a spar. We're from the same generation, so I won't take your life. Why? Are you relying on your background again? North Frost stared at him disdainfully as she waved her frost claws again. Fart. Another scream was heard as a large amount of blood flowed from his body. Di Haofang's face was extremely embarrassed. I could suppress him 30,000 years ago, and I can do the same now. North Frost stared at him coldly. All right, that's enough. The sudden eruption of sparring caused everyone in the surroundings to be slightly stunned. Everyone looked over in astonishment. When they saw Di Haofang being abused, they were even more shocked. Their mouths were wide open. Di Haofang was also a celebrity in the imperial court. He was the crown prince 30,000 years ago, and his strength now far surpassed those of the same generation. But now, he was being abused by a woman. An elder glanced at him and said softly with flickering eyes, "Trash." North Frost heard the voice of an elder from the imperial court and spat out 2 words at Di Haofang. Crack, crack, crack. The next moment, the frost on the frost claws that were grabbing Di Haofang spread towards his chest. It formed 2 huge words. Trash. In particular, the 2 words were emitting a frosty glow and were exceptionally eye-catching. Seeing this, everyone was taken aback. Some of them even couldn't help but laugh out loud. Wang. North Frost waved her arm and dispelled the spar. "Ah, North Frost, you're courting death." Di Haofang looked at the 2 huge words on his chest and felt dizzy as he roared, "Useless trash that only knows how to bark." North Frost waved her arm and a force landed on his chest. Di Haofang's expression changed drastically as he retreated immediately. Haofang. Beside him, Di Haofang and a few others frowned and appeared behind him instantly to catch him. North Frost snorted and turned to leave. But at this moment, she paused as she noticed Wang Xian. "Master." Chapter 2646. Master. Bei Shuang's voice rang out. When she saw Wang Xian, she retracted her arrogance and revealed a faint smile. She flew to Wang Xian obediently and greeted him respectfully. Wang Xian looked at her and smiled faintly. What? However, at this time, the young man who was being supported by 2 middle-aged men in the air was shocked when he saw this scene. "Master? That young man?" His eyes widened and his face was filled with disbelief. How could this young man be Bei Shuang's master? Could this young man be the leader of Dragon Palace? Di Haofang's face was clouded. This was something he had never expected. Yesterday, when he heard about Bei Shuang, he was slightly taken aback and immediately looked into it. In the end, he did not expect that the woman he suppressed, the woman who shone like a shooting star and fell like a shooting star, would rise again, and she was even stronger and more heaven-defying than before. She had the battle prowess of an 8th-order immortal god king, but he also did not expect that the person who made Bei Shuang return to her peak was that young man, the young man who wanted to trade the immortal slaying gourd with his status and strength. Looking at the huge frost-covered words in front of him, his face turned ugly. That Bei Shuang is so powerful. She was a genius from 30,000 years ago and suppressed everyone of her generation in the Imperial Star Domain. Didn't she die? She went quiet because she had no way to cultivate. I heard that she found a master in the past 2 years and made her return to her peak. She even has the battle prowess of an 8th-order immortal god king. Many say she has the potential to become a great emperor. SSS. Who would have thought that the genius would be so terrifying now? That young man is her master. Dragon Palace's Dragon King, an 8th-order immortal god king and the leader of a powerful faction. He looks young but he's not as simple as he looks. The frost goddess with the potential to become a great emperor is so powerful. It's been a long time since someone with the potential to become a great emperor appeared. Around them, some of the experts saw this scene and were slightly shocked as they discuss. Bei Shuang had shaken the region more than 30,000 years ago. Now, he had returned with great strength and was toying with an expert of the imperial court, causing him to lose face. Such strength caused many people's hearts to tremble. Even the few old guardians of the imperial court took a deep look at Bei Shuang and Wang Xian, who was beside her. "Is everything settled?" Wang Xian asked Bei Shuang without a care when he sensed the gazes around him. "It's settled, master." Bei Shuang nodded. "Let's go," said Wang Xian with a smile as he looked at the Emperor Star Maiden. "All right." The Emperor Star Maiden smiled sweetly and nodded. The 3 of them flew directly towards the grassland. That young man is actually the leader of the Dragon Palace, Bei Shuang's master, and the leader of the power on the Emperor Star Maiden ranking. Down below, the group of women raised their heads and looked up in shock. The woman in snow-white clothes also frowned slightly. Her eyes revealed a trace of seriousness. She had learned a little about the Dragon Palace yesterday. It was one of the stronger forces among the first-class forces. Based on her guess, given the strength and status of the Emperor Star Maiden, even if she had some status in the Dragon Palace, it wouldn't be too high. However, she did not expect the leader of the Dragon Palace to accompany her personally. That wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was the disciple of the Dragon King, the Frost Goddess. From the comments of the surrounding experts of the Imperial Court, one could guess a thing or two. If she's really strong, I might have to be careful. The woman in snow-white clothes murmured. This Emperor Star Maiden is probably going to rise. The other young men and women of the current generation also thought to themselves. She had the support of a powerful force and knew an expert with the potential of a great emperor. Many of them were far, far away from it. She must be a sugar daddy of that young man. There were also some jealous women who muttered softly. I have to go back to the courtyard to settle some matters. Star Maiden, call me tomorrow. Wang Xian said directly when they returned to the Emperor Star Maiden's house. All right. Where's Sister Bei Shuang? Do you want me to bring you around? The Emperor Star Maiden nodded and asked. No need. Bei Shuang shook her head at her. Wang Xian entered the room and closed the door immediately. He sat on the bed and took out elixir pills excitedly. His eyes shone with excitement. I'm about to break through. It's going to be much smoother than I thought. He murmured. This trip was really worth it. Gulp. Drops of elixir pills entered his mouth and were quickly converted into dragon energy. Boom. Half an hour later, his body shook and a majestic aura surged out from his body. Wang Xian immediately retracted his aura. Ding. Congratulations to host for leveling up to 3rd Order Immortal God King. The system's notification sounded. Wang Xian opened his eyes slowly and a 7-colored divine dragon was swimming in his pupils. Name, Wang Xian race, Yin-Yang 5 elements divine dragon, one with the dragon, level, 3rd Order Immortal God King, 7th transformation of divine dragon transformation, origin source, 2144344500000000 superpower. Dominate the marine animals, rule all marine animals lower than your own level, devour living beings, extract origin source from living beings, 5 elements control art of cultivation, divine dragon transformation superpower, soul assimilation, spirit attachment, yin-yang 5 elements. Dragon eyes dharma, 5 elements grindstone, dragon country in the palm, dragon head descending, 10,000 miles dragon body, yin-yang 2 poles, yin-yang 5 elements bowl, divine dragon tail whip. Law of substance, metal, wood, water, fire, earth, light, darkness, 3rd Order, God Kingdom. Dragon Palace owned Dragon Palace. Level 7 Dragon Palace members. 410842-inch 3rd Order Immortal God King Realm. 9th Order Immortal God King Realm battle prowess. Wang Xian stood up slowly as the 7-colored divine dragon in his eyes gradually dissipated. Phew, I'm one step closer to the peak of the bedazzling starry sky. When I return, the Dragon Palace will be comparable to a large sect. Wang Xian murmured. Oh right, I wonder what's the situation with the immortal slaying gourd. Wang Xian recalled that the immortal slaying gourd was growing on the progenitor tree. Hey! He could sense that the immortal slaying gourd was entangled by the boundless wood and the nirvana lightning tree's branches. One was fire sword chi and the other was lightning sword chi. Together with the green wind sword chi, they revolved around the immortal slaying gourd. The power of the immortal slaying gourd had not changed for the time being. However, it had increased from 1 sword chi to 3. This immortal slaying gourd is not simple for it to be located on the progenitor tree. I've picked up a treasure again, Wang Xian murmured as a smile appeared on his face. This could be said to be a double blessing. Chapter 2647. Boom, boom, boom. Just as Wang Xian and Imperial Star Maiden were conversing, a powerful aura swept over, and the sky rumbled. Wang Xian looked over, and his eyes were filled with shock. Everyone in the square looked towards the center, and soon, their mouths were agape, and their faces were filled with shock. In front of the center, 3,000 to 4,000 young, middle-aged, and old men were flying over, each of them exuding a prideful aura. Among them, the weakest was a peak god lord. The strongest was an 8th or 9th Order Immortal King, and there was even a peak Immortal King expert. 3,000 to 4,000 people flew over in a row, and their aura was intimidating. Their aura was not the kind of powerful pressure, but the kind of invincible aura, a kind of invincibility, an intense confidence that would make the weak feel inferior. This kind of aura was hard to cultivate. And this kind of aura would greatly amplify one's fighting prowess. I'm invincible. These are the princes and princesses of our imperial court in the past, such powerful aura. They are the princes and princesses of our imperial court in the past tens of millions of years. The one leading them has already become a protector, and is in his twilight years. These are all geniuses that dominated their respective eras. In front of the platform, all the imperial court disciples looked at the figures in front of them with awe and respect. Out of those 3,000, any one of them was an existence that dominated their generation in the imperial star domain. They were the most dazzling existences of their generation. The princes and princesses represented the two most outstanding people in the imperial star domain. Su. When the 3,000 princes and princesses stood at the front, another group flew out from behind. Similarly, over 10,000 people flew out from behind, and there were still young, middle-aged, and old men. They were also the shining figures of their respective eras, the most outstanding batch of people in their generation. There were even some who caught up and surpassed the princes and princesses of their generation. These people were also outstanding disciples who participated in the competition in the past. Over 10,000 people had arrived, and 80% of them had reached the Immortal King realm. In other words, there were over 10,000 Immortal King experts. Ring the bell. The group of Imperial Court experts arrived, and the white-haired protector in the lead, who was holding a walking stick and had wrinkles all over his face, said softly. Although his voice was gentle, it reached everyone's ears. This was an existence that had lived for nearly 10 million years, an old man past his prime, and a former prince. Boom. A warning bell. Boom. Second bell strikes the world. Boom. World suppressing 3 bells. The grand competition of the Imperial Court's 10,000 third-generation disciples begins. As soon as the old man's voice fell, the huge ancient bell in the center began to ring automatically. Moreover, a pale voice came from the divine clock. The sound of the bell was like a voice from beyond the heavens, striking directly at the soul. When Wang Xian heard the voice, he was slightly shocked. What kind of divine artifact is this? It's actually so terrifying. 1 bell to warn the world, 2 bells to awe the world, 3 bells to suppress the world. And the 100,000th and third generation of the imperial dynasty? In other words, the imperial court has existed for more than 500 million years. Wang Xian's heart skipped a beat. The powerful sound of the bell had a long history. All participating disciples, please enter the stage. The rest of you can just watch from the stairs. Don't hold back. The hosting protector revealed a smile on his aged face as he spoke plainly. Yes, protector. Some disciples responded immediately and leaped towards the empty space in the center of the square. One by one, the disciples entered the square. Soon, millions of disciples landed in the square. Us old guys are the happiest to be able to see the imperial court prospering. Hee hee. The old protector chuckled as he looked at the hundreds of thousands of disciples below. Boom. His walking stick landed softly on the ground with a loud thud. Next, the world-suppressing bell will test your strength and wisdom. Only 100 to 150 princes will remain in the square. All disciples must work hard. Even if you can't make it to the top, those who perform outstandingly will have a high chance of being taken in as disciples by the experts present. At the same time, the voice of the old protector rang. The grand competition of the imperial court's disciples wasn't just a series of battles. It was a selection process that lasted a few days or even a dozen days. With a powerful divine artifact, the selection process would be very simple, and there would be no unfairness at all. Yes. The disciples immediately responded in a loud voice. Spread out immediately. 500 meters apart. The old protector said emotionlessly. All the disciples immediately spread out across the square. World-suppressing bell, test. The old protector commanded softly. Wang. The bell in the center vibrated gently. Streaks of lightning blanketed the sky. In the next moment, a crack was torn in the surrounding space, forming a separate domain. Crackle. Bolts of lightning fell on everyone's body, and lightning appeared in front of the millions of disciples. The lightning turned illusory and transformed into human figures. Each of the human figures possessed the fighting strength of a Tier 4 Eternal Almighty. The first round of the test begins. Defeat the opponents in front of you. The old protector said. Yes. Kill. Fight. All the disciples knew that the test had begun. They fixed their eyes on the opponents in front of them and charged forward. This world-suppressing bell is really mystical. Wang Xian looked at the scene before him and glanced at the world-suppressing bell in the center. The test had begun. The first round would eliminate 99% of the participants. The lightning of a Tier 4 Eternal Almighty is of no threat to the Star Princess. Bei Shuang looked at the Emperor Star Princess and said plainly, "No threat at all." Wang Xian nodded and glanced over. At this moment, the dragon blood sword appeared in the hands of the Emperor Star Princess. She swung it at the lightning figure in front of her. A wave of energy swept over and the lightning figure collapsed instantly. There were many who could destroy the lightning figure with a single strike. Some of them looked extremely relaxed. Those who were more relaxed lifted their heads slightly and waited for more lightning figures to appear after 10 seconds. 10 seconds later, 2 lightning figures appeared with the same strength as before. The Emperor Star Princess also swung her arm and destroyed them instantly. 10 seconds later, 3 more appeared. The first round of the test is a little boring. The disciples who are truly capable can't perform. I almost fell asleep during the test. Hehe, you're really good at bragging. The first round of the test is just a screening. Some of the disciples won't reveal their trump cards. Oh, I'm more optimistic about Emperor Spirit Song. His strength should be at Tier 7 Eternal Almighty now, right? I'm more optimistic about my nephew, Di Ming. My brother came to me yesterday and I gave him a treasure. Now, Di Ming has also broken through to Tier 7 Eternal Almighty. Realm is just one aspect. Actual combat and strength are also important. In front of them, the former princes, princesses, and supreme talents were chatting with smiles on their faces. Chapter 2648, there was no pop-up window for free reading. Boom, boom, boom. Just as Wang Xian and Imperial Star Maiden were conversing, a powerful aura swept over, and the sky rumbled. Wang Xian looked over, and his eyes were filled with shock. Everyone in the square hurriedly looked towards the center of the square. Soon, their mouths were slightly agape, and their faces were filled with shock. 3,000 to 4,000 young, middle-aged, and old men were flying over, each of them exuding a prideful aura. Among them, the weakest was a peak god lord. The strongest had 8th or 9th order immortal king realm experts, and there was even a peak immortal king realm expert. 3,000 to 4,000 people flew over in a row, and their aura was intimidating. Their aura was not the kind of powerful pressure, but the kind of invincible aura, a kind of invincibility, an intense confidence that would make the weak feel inferior. This kind of aura was hard to cultivate. And this kind of aura would greatly amplify one's fighting prowess. I'm invincible. These are the princes and princesses of our imperial court in the past, such powerful aura. They are the princes and princesses of our imperial court in the past tens of millions of years. The one leading them has already become a protector, and is in his twilight years. These are all geniuses that dominated their respective eras. In front of the platform, all the imperial court disciples looked at the figures in front of them with awe and respect. Out of those 3,000, any one of them was an existence that dominated their generation in the imperial star domain. They were the most dazzling existences of their era. The princes and princesses represented the 2 most outstanding people in the imperial star domain. Su. When the 3,000 princes and princesses stood in front, another group flew out from behind. Similarly, over 10,000 people flew out from behind, and there were still young, middle-aged, and old men. They were also the shining figures of their respective eras, the most outstanding batch of people in their era. There were even some who caught up and surpassed the princes and princesses of their generation. These people were also outstanding disciples who participated in the competition in the past. Over 10,000 people had arrived, and 80% of them had reached the immortal king realm. In other words, There were over 10,000 immortal King Realm experts. Ring the bell. The group of Imperial Court experts arrived, and the white-haired protector in the lead, who was holding a walking stick and had wrinkles all over his face, said softly. Although his voice was gentle, it reached everyone's ears. This was an existence that had lived for nearly 10 million years, an old man past his prime, and a former prince. Boom. A warning bell. Boom. Second bell strikes the world. Boom. World suppressing 3 bells. The grand competition of the Imperial Court's 10,000 third-generation disciples begins. As soon as the old man's voice fell, the huge ancient bell in the center began to ring automatically. Moreover, a pale voice came from the divine clock. The sound of the bell was like a voice from beyond the heavens, striking directly at the soul. When Wang Xian heard the voice, he was slightly shocked. What kind of divine artifact is this? It's actually so terrifying. 1 bell to warn the world, 2 bells to awe the world, 3 bells to suppress the world. And the 100,000th and 3rd generation of the imperial dynasty? In other words, the imperial court has existed for more than 500 million years. Wang Xian's heart skipped a beat. The powerful sound of the bell had a long history. All participating disciples, please enter the stage. The rest of you can just watch from the stairs. Don't hold back. The hosting protector revealed a smile on his aged face as he spoke plainly. Yes, protector. Some disciples responded immediately and leaped towards the empty space in the center of the square. One by one, the disciples entered the square. Soon, millions of disciples landed in the square. Us old guys are the happiest to be able to see the imperial court prospering. Hee hee. The old protector chuckled as he looked at the hundreds of thousands of disciples below. Boom. His walking stick landed softly on the ground with a loud thud. Next, the world-suppressing bell will test your strength and wisdom. Only 100 to 150 princes will remain in the square. All disciples must work hard. Even if you can't make it to the top, those who perform outstandingly will have a high chance of being taken in as disciples by the experts present. At the same time, the voice of the old protector rang. The grand competition of the imperial court's disciples wasn't just a series of battles. It was a selection process that lasted a few to a dozen days. With a powerful divine artifact, the selection process would be very simple, and there would be no unfairness at all. Yes. The disciples immediately responded in a loud voice. Spread out immediately. 500 meters apart. The old protector said emotionlessly. All the disciples immediately spread out across the square. World-suppressing bell, test. The old protector exclaimed softly. Wang. The world-suppressing bell in the center vibrated gently. Streaks of lightning blanketed the sky. In the next moment, a crack was torn in the surrounding space, forming a separate domain. Crackle. Bolts of lightning fell on everyone's body, and lightning appeared in front of the millions of disciples. The lightning turned illusory and transformed into human figures. Each of the human figures possessed the fighting strength of a Tier 4 Eternal Almighty. The first test begins. Defeat the opponents in front of you. The old protector said. Yes. Kill. Fight. All the disciples knew the test had begun. They stared at the opponents in front of them and charged at them. This world-suppressing bell is magical. Wang Xian looked at the scene before him and glanced at the world-suppressing bell in the center. The test had begun. The first round would eliminate 99% of the candidates. The lightning of a Tier 4 Eternal Almighty is no threat to the Star Princess. Bei Shuang looked at the Emperor Star Princess and said plainly. No threat at all. Wang Xian nodded and looked over. At this moment, the dragon blood sword appeared in the hands of the Emperor Star Princess. She swung it at the lightning figure in front of her. A wave of energy swept over and the lightning figure collapsed instantly. There were many who could destroy the lightning figure with a single strike. Some looked extremely relaxed. Those who were more relaxed lifted their heads slightly and waited for the next figure to appear 10 seconds later. 10 seconds later, 2 more lightning figures appeared, with the same strength as the previous one. The Emperor Star Princess also swung her arm and destroyed them instantly. 10 seconds later, 3 more appeared. The first test is a little boring. The disciples who are truly capable can't show their strength. I almost fell asleep during the test. Hehe, you are really good at bragging. The first test is just a screening. Some of the disciples won't reveal their trump cards. Oh, I'm more optimistic about Emperor Spirit's song. His strength should be at tier 7 Eternal Almighty now, right? I'm more optimistic about my nephew, Di Ming. My brother came to me yesterday and I gave him a treasure. Now, Di Ming has also broken through to tier 7 Eternal Almighty. Realm is just one aspect. Actual combat and strength are also important. At the front, the former princes, princesses, and supreme talents were chatting with smiles on their faces. Chapter 2649. There was no pop-up window for free reading. Kill. Boom. Go to hell. In the square in front of the vast palace, roars filled with fighting spirit rang out. In front of them, the experts were chatting with smiles on their faces. This made the atmosphere much more relaxed. Look, Di Su Zhuang, Di Ju, Di Ming, and Di Spirit Song are so strong. As soon as the lightning shadow appeared, they destroyed it. Look at the corner. The Emperor Star Lady is so strong too. She's a famous celebrity in the Imperial Star region. She earns a lot of divine stones in one concert. Her strength is terrifying too. Di Qingshan is probably one of the top disciples in this generation. Hey, who are those two young men over there? Could they be this year's dark horse? The people who came to watch the ceremony were in a heated discussion. The people who were watching the ceremony from the stairs could clearly see everything that was happening in the hall. The strengths of some of the disciples were immediately revealed. This was especially true for the few disciples who were more popular. They easily killed the lightning phantoms one after another. It was clear who was stronger. The imperial court had to pick about 100 disciples from the millions of disciples. It could be said to be 1 in 10,000. In fact, it wasn't just 1 in 10,000. These millions of disciples were chosen from hundreds of millions or even billions of imperial court disciples. There was also a prerequisite, the imperial court's elite disciples. The imperial court's territory belonged to the imperial court's disciples. There were more than 100 billion young disciples. It could be said that the entire imperial court had gathered here. To have the strength of a second or third order eternal god lord at the age of 5,000 was already considered outstanding. As time passed, the disciples were eliminated one by one and transported out by the world-suppressing bell. They were slightly unwilling to accept it. They looked at the disciples who were still fighting and shook their heads. They were all geniuses and knew how far they could go. Di Haosong, your daughter is not bad. Looks like she'll have a place this time. At the front, a young lady said to the middle-aged man beside her. Huh? My daughter. My kid is useless. What about my daughter? Which one are you talking about? The middle-aged man called Di Haosong was confused. Hehe, he's really a playboy. Maybe he doesn't even know how many sons he has now. Hey. Her gaze landed on the Emperor Star Princess. The Emperor Star Princess should be one of the favorites for the Emperor Star Princess. Her strength is not bad, and I heard that she has a powerful faction supporting her. Oh, Emperor Star Maiden, I remember now. Di Haosong's gaze landed on the Emperor Star Maiden as his eyes brightened. Not bad, not bad. To be able to grow to this level without my guidance, this daughter is not bad. How ironic. It's bad luck to have a father like you. The woman beside him shook her head. Haha, how could it be unlucky? It should be an honor. We really need to nurture him well from now on. Di Haosong narrowed his eyes slightly. He used to be a prince and was called a dissolute wastrel by others. Women were counted in tens of thousands. Apart from his wife, who was often with him, and his wife's sons and daughters were often raised, the rest of his children were rarely seen. This was the first time he had noticed this outstanding daughter of his. If she could really get a good ranking and even become the Emperor Star Princess, he would have to nurture her well. He knew the potential of a Emperor Star Princess and a disciple who could get a good ranking. Without exaggerating, she was the future of the imperial court. Big brother, your daughter is not simple. At this moment, Di Haofeng beside the woman looked at Di Haosong and said expressionlessly, Oh, How is she not simple? Di Haosong was interested and asked right away. My niece is very close to a top-tier faction, and the leader of that faction is the master of the Frost Goddess. Di Haofeng said with a sunken expression. Frost Goddess? Di Haosong's brow rose up. Hihi, take a look at the information on the A. Your brother was taught a terrible lesson by the Frost Goddess. The woman beside him smiled. It seems like many things have happened in the dozen years that I was in seclusion. Di Haosong smiled and took out the AI to check some information. Oh. Soon, he raised his eyebrows and his eyes sparkled. All right, 123 disciples have passed the assessment. Among them, 20 to 30 are not required to participate in the next assessment due to their age. All of you will be rewarded by the Imperial Court. Before long, a voice sounded. At this moment, the Emperor Star Princess had also destroyed the encirclement of more than 160 lightning shadows. Dong. As the voice fell, the world suppression bell rang. Bolts of lightning surrounded the 100 figures in the field. As for the remaining 23, they were relatively younger, around 1 to 2,000 years old, and had decent talents. As they had started cultivating late, there was no need for them to participate in the next assessment. The disciples who defeated more than 150 lightning shadows will stand aside and watch. The 10 of you are qualified to compete for the position of the prince and princess. Of course, the rest of you are also qualified to challenge them. The other 90 disciples will participate in the ranking battle. The top 10 will be able to challenge these disciples. The old protector announced plainly. Yes, protector. The Emperor Star Maiden and the other 9 disciples couldn't help but reveal looks of excitement. Their figures flashed and they immediately moved to the side. Mother, Wang Xian. The Emperor Star Princess flew to the front of Wang Xian and called out with a beaming face. Great, our Star Princess has finally grown up. The Emperor Star Princess's mother also patted her head happily with a smile on her face. Mother, I'll definitely be the princess this time. When the time comes, we will live in this palace. The Emperor Star Princess lifted her head slightly and clenched her fists. Ha ha ha, my Huan, you've taught a good daughter. At this moment, laughter was heard from the side. Huh! The Emperor Star Princess's mother raised her eyebrows as she turned to the side and looked at the handsome middle-aged man. Husband. She bowed slightly and called out. When the Emperor Star Princess heard the way her mother addressed her, she shivered and looked at the middle-aged man expressionlessly. Why? Aren't you going to greet your father? Di Haosong looked at her with a beaming face and said. Oh. The Emperor Star Princess replied coldly with an indifferent tone. Star Princess. The lady beside her called out to her. Hihi, I didn't know I had a father. The Emperor Star Princess replied plainly when she saw her mother touching her. Her words made Di Haosong frown slightly. All right, lass. Don't throw a tantrum. He spoke plainly to the Emperor Star Princess. What kind of father is he? The Emperor Star Princess looked at her mother and replied directly.